Here at Green Geeks, WordPress works awesome. We offer a one-click installer with automatic updates, tons of developer tools like WP Staging, WP CLI, and Git, free WordPress migration, and access to award-winning expert support 24/7, 365. Plus, WordPress sites hosted on our platform are lightning fast. Most importantly, Green Geeks is the most eco-friendly WordPress web hosting company on the planet.
Discover Weglot, the simple translation solution for your website. All you have to do is add Weglot to your website. Select the languages that you need, and that's it. Your website is now available in multiple languages.
Hey, David Bissett from PostStatus here. If you're having a good time today, you're going to have a greater time in the PostStatus Club year-round. So go to poststatus.com/club to join hundreds of WordPress professionals and find out how we can send you the best insights in the ecosystem every week.
To put it simply, plugins power WordPress. But when a plugin fails, so does your site. With fully managed WordPress hosting from Nexus, you get carefully curated plugins that will save you from having to search the plugin database to find the right tools. And you'll never have to worry about managing or updating plugins again. Start building a site that loads ultra fast with instant auto scaling, visual comparisons, plus automatic plugin updates and platform updates. With fully managed WordPress from Nexus, better is built in.
Hello and welcome. Robert Jacoby is coming to the stage with his talk, Gutenberg, Page Builders, SaaS, Where is it going? Robert is the director of WordPress at Cloudways, a multi-cloud managed application as a service platform. Robert leads the WordPress business unit at Cloudways in community engagement, strategic partnerships, and product. Robert is an international, well-known and respected speaker, contributor to open source, hosting, and infrastructure communities. He has served in multiple roles with Joomla, a member of Make WordPress Hosting, contributor to ICANN at large, and former chair of the Technical Outreach Working Group of the Internet Infrastructure Coalition. Welcome, Robert.
Welcome.
Hey, I think I need to trim that bio down. It sounds so much longer when you say it out loud.
We're excited to have you.
Thanks,
You're all
Gabby.
about
Thanks,
Gutenberg.
Amanda. Thrilled to be here.
Thank you.
In hour 14, I think, of WordFest.
Yep, getting there.
Sure.
Okay, take it away. Thank you, Robert.
Hi, all. That was a lot of fun. And the sort of private chat about how much I love the WordFest theme song is making me still chuckle. Welcome all. I'm so glad to be able to speak with you. virtually about Gutenberg, page builders, SaaS, and sort of this rapidly changing world of how we build websites. It's not going to be super technical, but it's going to be a lot about, how we engage, where we came from, where are we today, and how do we engage with all these tools. So let's get kind of to it. A little bit about myself. Excuse me, was just choking on a little bit of water. I'm Robert Jacoby. You can find me, of course, on Twitter at Robert Jacoby. I have over 20 years of agency experience, a lot of that primarily with open source tools, and it's been a blast. I focus a lot on open source partnerships, the open source ecosystem. Have been involved with products like Joom projects. I should say because they're much more than just products. Like Joomla and WordPress significantly. And currently today I'm director of WordPress at Cloudways. Thanks, Amanda, for that wonderful introduction. Here we go to it. A little bit of an agenda. And I look forward to all the questions and comments, and having Kathy and Amanda interrupt what's going on because I'm so much more used to having our live presentations, and looking forward to when those start kicking back up again. I'd like to kind of go through a little bit of, we're talking about Gutenberg, we're talking about page builders, we're talking about SaaS products and solutions. Where did we start? What has driven us to the point we are at today, and how is that going to impact the future of how we put together websites? And I'm trying to not make it WordPress websites, because it is websites, and there are a lot of ways to get to that end result. So where do we start? Where are we today? Where are we going? Brilliant, right? Okay. Where did we start? So I really like looking back decades ago. Yes, we can actually even say decades ago, where we started with the most basic premise of how all this gets together. And I'm saying old schools forever, because what we started with almost 3 decades ago is still critical to what we do today, how we implement, how we think of being a freelancer, an agency, and a business in the web space. Oh yeah, gotta mention, I like these unicorns. They're in all my presentations. They're all about getting excited and doing little fun things. So old schools forever. The unicorn lets us know that that's important, and it's HTML. HTML, the crux of how we actually engage with people online. There have been changes. There have been new specifications. We don't use blink anymore as a tag, thank goodness. But HTML is the crux of our universe, and it really defines not only what we see, but how we get to generating HTML to have an experience online. It's big and important. It is just the underlying bulwark, framework, whatever you want to call it, for everything we do. Everything is HTML. Giant asterisk. Because over the last, let's say, 20 years, a couple of things have come into play. First of all, browsers only speak HTML for the most part. HTML is the instruction set, the hardcore code that lets information from one place travel to another and get displayed, rendered in a way that end users can experience the web. The giant asterisk, of course, is because over the last few decades, we've added CSS and JavaScript as ways to be more interactive with websites, to be more controlling of websites, to really take advantage of all the screen real estate that a browser gives us. And those browsers, of course, have now completely changed. We're no longer looking at 640 by 480 screens with limited palettes and all that stuff. We can really take advantage of the end user's technology. And of course, mobile has completely upended that, and we have tool sets for doing mobile web development, mobile web design. This is really fascinating how strong this old school bit of tech is and how it continues to dominate all of our experiences. I'm going to ignore all the goofy little failed attempts at things like, Flash and all these sort of weird native plugins that came and went. But I think they're important to look back on insofar as they created opportunities for us to think of how to engage with end users. So everything is HTML. But HTML is hard. You got to go through it. You got to, update every single page by hand. I remember handcrafting hundreds and hundreds of pages just for a single site, and everything had to be done. Tons of copy paste. That never created errors. So we got into the actual coding of the sites. We were able to take advantage of a plethora of sort of server-side tools that would help make this happen. But because we could code, we get a unicorn because we could do much more. Whee, unicorn. All these languages became part and parcel of developing websites. So you had to learn Visual Basic. You had to learn, Perl. I don't know why Perl is spelled that way. Java, C. I'd love to see a bunch of hands raised, but how many of you actually developed CGI applications, with C or C++, so you could actually render a website and do more than just hand code HTML for every single page? All these languages were critical, and some of them still are, obviously, to making sure that our web experience is meaningful and useful. But it was hard. You really had to be an engineer, a software developer, someone who actually took computer science. A mastery of the technology was critical. Huge benefits. You actually started being able to use templates, connect up to databases. The caveat is that in a lot of cases, you also had to be a system administrator, someone who actually understood how a web server worked with an application server and that database and know the ins and outs. So, now you went from just throwing up some HTML and code, but to make your life or someone's life easier, you had to learn a whole lot more. It was a very expert area. But the beauty is where we are today. And today actually started evolving, a decade and a half ago with the CMS. And the CMS completely changed our lives, especially open source content management systems. CMS, content management system, I think we're all on the same page. That's great. But open source content management systems really created a completely new economy for everyone from freelancers to agencies to, high-end sort of technical development shops. There were certainly a plethora of proprietary content management systems in the early aughts, horrendously expensive. CMS, open source CMS completely, turned that on its head. This is, super unicorn. Yes. Slowly we cross. We have content management systems like Joomla, like Drupal, Magento. We could even say things like Shopify, but let's stick on the open source side. That's kind of how I'm living in my CMS world. CMS means open source CMS in my head because the benefits are very unique when you think about open source CMS. And it's obviously a huge, huge space and market for all sorts of implementers, developers, designers, content creators, so on and so forth. And of course, the biggest one, whoops, jumped ahead of my slides in my head. Content management systems made everything so much easier. We have WYSIWYG editors. What you see is what you get. There's probably a significant portion of the audience that doesn't even think about the phrase WYSIWYG or the word WYSIWYG. There hasn't been a time for people to even remember what it was like to not have what you see is what you get. We started being able to separate content from engineering so that people who work on content can actually do that independently of having to call up a software developer, a PHP developer, a C++, C# developer. The ability to separate tasks and effort starts occurring because of content management system, and is a huge breakthrough. Excuse me. And lastly, we see that there's a lower barrier to entry. So there are opportunities to deploy open source content management systems. You don't have to worry about the system administration aspects of things. You don't have to worry about a lot of the coding. Not necessarily always the easiest things, but the level of technical knowledge one needs on the computer science end of it starts shrinking, which is fantastic. Again, opening up the marketplace and field to as many people as possible. And of course, this is the slide I jumped into, WordPress. WordPress, over the last 10 years, has just dominated the open source content management system marketplace. And that's fantastic. It's ready to go in so many ways to be able to generate content and be flexible enough to do other things. I'm not going to sell you on WordPress. You're all here at WordFest, 24 hours of WordPress, so you know what I'm talking about. WordPress does wind up becoming the ultimate CMS because of this. We have block editing, so it's not just WYSIWYG anymore. We can actually move things around, drag and drop. All the news about WordPress 5.8 and its new functionality this week has been great. Full site editing, and it's open source. So WordPress, open source, still slightly technical, but much more friendly to all sorts of levels of implementers, designers, developers. With WordPress, we actually get a new level of experience from page builders. And, there are certainly tens of them, if not hundreds, but, just to, name drop a few that most of you probably know: Elementor, Beaver Builder, Page Builder by SiteOrigin. These make our lives easier, better, faster, stronger. So even easier. So you've got the great open source CMS, and life made easier with even more full site page editing capabilities. Integrated themes, stuff that's out of the box. You almost don't need to know anything about code at this point with page builders to get them going. Unlike if you're just starting out with a blank WordPress setup and customize your own themes. And engineers get to become implementers. So that means, much more so from a business perspective, you need to focus less on the tech of it. You don't need to know how JSON is working, how Node's working, how PHP is working. You can focus more on the application. You can become an expert in a specific tool set. And then we really get crazy. We have sort of the SaaS-based site builders. This is pretty much technology where you can grab a neighbor who hasn't seen a computer in 20 years, and they can still build a site. Of course, we have some of the big players. So we have Wix, Weebly, Squarespace, and these folks dominate sort of that cookie cutter, get it done fast, cheap kind of web experience. And they're always they're continuing to build functionality. The competitive question then becomes, how do I, as a freelancer, solopreneur, agency, compete with tool sets that sort of come with everything out of the box, and an end user can just put it all together themselves. Benefits, of course, of the SaaS builders is it's no code. You can find ways to code, trust me. But really, the whole point is that code is not something that anyone has to think about. And really, as freelancers, developers, implementers, designers, content creators, we should realize that that is the direction of everything at the end of the day, that coding is something left to the folks that are going to put these kinds of solutions together. No code, obviously. Everything's provided for you. Templates, sometimes even content is ready to go for you, and you can just tweak and edit and have a full-fledged site for a small business, for example. They are a little proprietary, and here's the big bugaboo, and why you as an agency owner don't necessarily need to worry about the competition in a specific way. Because of the proprietary nature of SaaS site builders, you can't move them. You can't do anything. Those solutions are going to be stuck on those platforms. And that lock-in is a bad thing. It's a bad thing in the short term for people who want to, add more functionality, but it's a bad thing in the long term for anyone who wants to scale and be flexible with their experience. This is the unique competitive advantage that open source, developers and agencies can really, really hammer home. It's that ability to take advantage of diving into a site and being able to make the modifications, changes, and create scalability that are completely locked, closed down at SaaS site builders. Those tools are going to get, the SaaS site builder tools are only going to get stronger, more feature complete, but they're still never going to be able to solve all problems. That's where intelligent folk who understand the web experience, who can talk with their customers and clients about real solutions, start to really separate themselves from this cookie cutter kind of stuff. Where are we going? So this is bearing the lead. This is really the interesting question. What will the influence of everything from HTML back 30 years ago to the SaaS site builders today? What's going to happen with the environment that we're used to when working on websites and putting together projects for our customers and clients? Everyone is going to wind up trying to do everything, and they'll do it in different specific ways, but it's very interesting how I feel that this kind of web building experience is going to change. Super unicorns, because everyone is everything. So we're going to get I don't know why I have to say we every time I see the unicorn, but it's a lot of fun. The future solutions. Hosting companies going to go page builder. You're going to start seeing this everywhere. You're going to see bundles and packages of solutions come together, where hosting companies are trying to kind of sneak in as a new type of SaaS provider. Hosting companies already have the infrastructure to put this all together on the back end. The question is, how can we make it happen with the user experience expected at SaaS builders and providers? One of the sort of cruxes in our WordPress world is that there are so many different plugins, and tools and kits available to make things happen. The page builders we talked about, you know, the Elementors, Beaver Builders, Bold Grids, so on and so forth. And, you know, where are those partnerships and relationships going to happen, and how can you take advantage of them? So obviously one of the things is to know which hosting companies you really can connect with and build relationships and partnerships with. I've mentioned in other presentations, one specifically Invisible CMS, where you really need to look to creating strategic relationships and partnerships with one or two hosting companies that will go out of their way to make sure you can be successful. And it's important, as we see how the page building universe expands, that having that relationship and becoming an expert in the full sort of stack. You don't have to know the tech. You don't need to know whether it's on a DigitalOcean server or some server closet somewhere. You need to know what's going on at the hosting company, how they can scale with you, how they can scale with your projects, because those platforms are going to start growing into all these other WordPress tools and plugins. So get connected with the hosting company, get set up and partnered, fully invested in a handful of page builders. When I say handful, just knowing one can be a ton of work. Knowing two is even more work, and that's probably enough, because you're going to start seeing hosting companies really bundling and getting tightly knit with these kinds of systems so that they can start providing a more SaaS-like environment. The other benefits, there we go. Page Builder is going to go hosting. So this is, a fun little thing. And really we're starting to see this with Elementor, one of the, certainly the largest WordPress page builder. They're already building out their Elementor cloud service. So they're going the other direction. They have the front-end environment, the front-end universe, still open sourcey, and building out an infrastructure to handle all the hosting parts of the universe. So again, you're going to need to know what the hosting world is trying to offer. You're going to need to know what the page builder world is trying to offer. In both of these cases, it's really clear everyone's trying to emulate a SaaS model with an open source marketplace. This is great for open source. It's great for WordPress, and it allows us the flexibility and benefits of scaling and new technology and being able to get in under the hood if we need to, but also providing user experiences that are much more in line with the Wix, Squarespaces of the world. So keeping an eye on that is really, really important, and knowing where your specific skill sets lay and how to take advantage of those. And then the last sort of future solution in my head is application sneaking in. I think we're going to wind up, we can say they're, of course, SaaS solutions, but I think they're going to be so much more focused on that application side. And when I say applications, I'm talking about, your iPhone, your, Android tablet, these kinds of mobile applications that allow you to really do everything on your, under the sun, much more easily. So really amping up the ease of use aspect for building a website. These are going to absolutely be SaaS driven. That can happen with open source tools. That can happen with proprietary tools. I think that's a critical thing that everyone should be looking out for. And one of the questions as a freelancer or an agency you might want to ask yourself is, where can we fit into that, mix of applications driving all this? Can, if mom and pop stores can quickly, log into their, iPad and, create a site for X amount a month and start dragging and dropping things with their fingers, well, that's going to certainly take out the need for a type of developer. You can still be in the mix and creating unique value propositions by focusing on strengths you have internally around consulting, around understanding the business models, around understanding the best business tools. if someone needs to go that route, there may be multiple options that, don't actually fit what they need and one perfect one. Becoming an expert around more than just the technology is really, really key and important. What to do? Boy, I think I've even run through some of what to do already, but what to do provides super unicorn fun. Because success is it's an open field, and there's tons of things we can keep thinking about and working through to make sure that freelancer agency model is relevant as things become easier and easier for end users. Just because we have electric cars now that have infinitely fewer moving parts, and I can theoretically, manage my car's services. That doesn't mean that mechanics and auto builders have disappeared. Quite the contrary. They may become more consolidated, and you may have to find ways to, especially as a freelancer, how do you fit into those more consolidated spaces? But, not just understanding that technology is not the key position you should be taking. You should be looking at, what business problems are you actually solving? I like to say embrace the challenge. It is challenging. A lot of the bigger companies are trying to make it much, much easier for end users. Their goal isn't necessarily to satisfy an agency's needs. It's to satisfy the needs of someone who's paying X amount a month for hosting, or X amount a month for a page builder, or annually, however all these licenses work. So you have expert knowledge. You understand the best tools and technology. You understand the best business practices in verticals that you've utilized in the past. Lean into those skills and experiences you have. That's what sets you apart. And it also allows you to charge more, because if you're an expert, not just in building a website, because now everyone can build a website, you can be an expert in a mom and pop shop vertical. You can be an expert in a membership vertical. There are all these kinds of spaces that if you've done your homework and you have that experience, you can be much, much more successful. So now you're not just a website builder, you're a consultant, a partner, a strategist with those companies, because you know the best practices. You've seen what's made previous sites successful. Focus on your site developer advantages. You're going to have to, know what it means to work with WordPress and a set of tools and services. You're still going to have to know how to partner with the right hosting companies, which plugins, all that. Those aren't going to disappear overnight. In fact, they'll become even more relevant because you're going to see them everywhere. Most of these places are not going to be building their own, plugins from scratch, because that takes a lot of work and it's very difficult, time consuming, and, to get it right and have enough sort of market share so that there's documentation and support, that takes years. So, focus on those, specific site developer advantages, not necessarily on how to code all this stuff, but, the business reasons for why you're using X, Y, and Z. Stay educated. Taking the time to make sure you're paying attention to all the sort of progressions in, like core WordPress with Gutenberg and full site editing. It's such a great thing. And frankly, I'm just going to expose myself as one of the biggest Gutenberg lovers. I think it is the best way to go to avoid, weird complexities, weird incompatibilities, all that kind of fun stuff. But that's not going to be for everyone. So stay educated, stay on top of things, and drive to be aware of where the end user experience is going. And really, almost lastly, use solutions that match client expectations. This is critical. That mom and pop store is not going to want to see a giant WooCommerce shop that they have to click through a million things and try to manage and add content, all that. They're going to want to say, I have a hammer for sale. This is how much the hammer is. Maybe this is how much inventory I have, and that's it. Being able to take, the best of what we see in things like Shopify, Wix, Squarespace, and bring them into, the open source WordPress space is really key, because the more and more people get online, and we've seen that immensely in the last 2 years, the less and less they actually know about what's running behind the scenes. They just have a problem that needs to be solved. And you as a freelancer, you as an agency owner, you have the skills and experience to make that happen. Whew. So run with it, learn, succeed, stay open sourcey. Thank you very much. And I'm hearing a bunch of the questions, I guess.
Oh, like I have all of
Oops,
these
missed you there,
questions.
Kathy. What'd you say?
Sorry, and I was doing this. I really appreciated your talk. My head is full. That was the hand signal. I have like all of these questions going through my head. There was a little bit of chat while you were on. I think you can see that people talking about Elementor and how the hosting companies always had a page builder built in, like sort of a rough page builder that they always tried to offer. But it's nothing compared to what we can offer with Elementor and Beaver Builder. And I really appreciated just sort of the overarching guidance for us as agency owners and how we're going to have to pivot. We're always trying to pivot, and client expectations are always going simpler and simpler, and they want more and they want to pay less, especially because now you can just, I could Google it, you know, why am I going to pay for that? I could just Google it. So I guess one of my questions is, where do you recommend us, if technology isn't necessarily the focus, what do we stay educated on?
I think what most freelancers and agencies have learned, they actually don't go back and investigate. So if you've been in this space for 5, 10, 15 plus years, you have a plethora of clients and experiences that may actually push you into a specific market, niche, vertical, however we want to say it. And we have business knowledge that we've never documented and really, you know, put on paper for ourselves to say, you know, by golly, I just said by golly. You know, oh my goodness, I have so much knowledge about the healthcare space that I've never really, you know, sort of put together. And that, of course, is going to tie to how that is experienced on the web. But if you understand that in the healthcare space, you need to have a whole different set of legal requirements for what can and can't be published, or how it can and can't be published. Not only are you a website builder now you're an expert healthcare, you know, website builder. And that's where everyone's going to need to go to, because the technology is going to get so much easier, so much cheaper, and so much dumber. No one's going to want to be making $1 an hour to put WordPress sites up. So, you know, what are you going to be able to offer to the end user? So, you know, we go all the way back from, you know, HTML now through Gutenberg and SaaS providers. And that trajectory is always making things easier for the end user. Agency developers are not the end user for the most part. The end user is the end user, the one who's paying for the site, and the one who's going to take advantage of it, sell things on it, provide information. So how do you become experts in certain business areas that now you can really provide value? Like, oh, you know, you probably shouldn't put that, you know, as, you know, above the fold, because that's really not important information. And, you know, you might want to have different, you know, pricing models for different kinds of, you know, solutions, whether they're virtual solutions or, you know, physical brick and mortar products.
So that definitely brings me to a question, and I know this is probably going to be different for each agency, but how do you, if, like you said, you've been doing this for a while, we start to figure stuff out within a niche, and we start to, I know I've had clients appreciate the first consultation before the project even begins, just giving them some guidance on what and how they should be focusing on, or how much even the dollars should be, like what percentage of your marketing budget, and just some common sense sort of guidance that we pick up along the way. How do we, and I never charge for it, because I feel like I can only charge for like PHP, Like that's worth $100 an hour. Me going on about stuff that I don't have a degree in, how do I charge for that?
The funny part is, as time progresses, less people will have any idea of why they should pay you for PHP. They won't know what PHP is. They won't care what PHP is. They're looking for a solution. So you can say, we have had this kind of experience with. I'm going to just go healthcare because it's a nice initiative to focus on, and we've learned these. We have a set of questions that we've put together after X amount of years of experience. We know what works best. We're going to sit down with you, and we're going to have a consultative set of sessions, and you can call that business requirements. What I've done in the past is have two very specific sets of sessions that have specific deliverables that can actually be taken anywhere else if the customer so desires. But it's really figuring out, these are the business requirements. You have business needs. We need to know what those are, and we're going to document that. We're going to hand it back to you. And then we're also going to put together our technical requirements for what you should be doing with those business needs. And you can take this set of documents, you can take it somewhere else. Customers 99 times out of 100 will never do that. They will stick with you because you've done the work and you've already built the relationship in that process. And you should absolutely charge for that. We take our business.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, we take our business and work seriously, dear customer. So that's why we charge for this work, because we're going to provide you something that's meaningful and useful.
Well, there's two things there. I know that I've seen that done. A friend has an industrial company servicing factories and things, and they will charge just for quoting because of their expertise. And then they get, I'm not sure if they call it quoting, but you get that set of documents that you could actually take to any contractor, but you don't need to be the expert. You just need your factory fixed or whatever. So they come up with the stuff that only an expert could come up with that you can then get quotes for.
So the question, is there a space for just people to build these requirements and technical documents?
I don't know. Am I alone in feeling like there's a lot of business coaches and I don't want to charge for being a consultant? I'm an expert and I don't have a business that's thriving, but I'll charge you to help you thrive.
Well, and see, this is where I think that's, the WordPress ecosystem is different. We already have the technical expertise. So, we're not necessarily blowing smoke. We're adding to the conversation and to our revenue, bottom line, projects, contracts, the fact that we're going to help you get from A to B and not just willy-nilly. We've done this before. We have a plan, we have a process, and you're going to get value every step of the way. And that's one of the key factors is it's not like, okay, we're just going to sit down and have some meetings and we're all going to disappear. No, you're providing value every step of the way. In that, business requirements phase, you should be extracting from your customer their needs and then translating them into something useful. Whether that's, at the simplest level, so you want a site that looks like Etsy. Got it. Versus, and then taking that one step further, here are the technical requirements. This is how someone, preferably you as a freelancer agency, would implement those big business requirements with, a SaaS solution, WordPress, or some even, different framework.
There was one other question. Thank you, by the way. That's very helpful. There's when you talk about all these no-code SaaS builders, how do they compare with WordPress on usability or accessibility? I mean, isn't that going to be? Don't you think Google's going to look for that at some point?
Boy, I sure hope so.
Yeah.
I mean, in fact, I've always believed that if you're focused on accessibility from the start, you're already ahead of the game with Google, because Google's using, schemas and, text-based content for years to get stuff. So if you're not doing the basics of, having alt tags for your images, which at this point I don't know why you wouldn't, but that's a simple accessibility thing, and Google's been scraping for years on that kind of stuff. So whether the SaaS providers are being smart about that, whether that's the focus on making sure the websites are searchable, indexable, accessible, versus can we just get more people on there? Well, I mean, that's the proprietary problem. You don't necessarily know what's going on. Whereas in an open source, project space, you can control much more of that.
Open source believer here.
And speaking of open source, I had a question. So we talked about providers trying to be all the things. And whenever I hear that, I always get a little flag in my mind thinking when folks are trying to be all the things, they're none of the things. So I wonder if you could speak to that, and maybe as a freelancer, like what can you look out for, especially as things continue to mold in our space? What are maybe some signs of where value could be sacrificed when a provider is trying to be all the things to try to meet end user needs as well as like agencies?
So I try to use all the things in a kind of more generic way. I think the smart providers will actually focus on specific niches of products. So you're going to see, a developer friendly, tool set out of Cloudways, a membership driven product solution out of Liquid Web Nexus. Hosting companies are going to look to find that niche and be experts in that niche. So when I say, everything is everywhere, everyone has everything, it's really about the fact that the spaces between page builders, hosting companies, and SaaSes are sort of merging. But I think everyone, to be successful, just like an agency or freelancer, is going to try to find a niche or a vertical where they can really be successful with, based on their existing customers and new customer bases that they're looking to attract.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it mirrors really well with what you're speaking to that agency folks should be doing as well, niching and really making sure that we're focusing our efforts into that customer that we're really going to know in and out and serve them the best.
That's what I'm hoping. The tech is going to force people. If you just want to, be a simple, plug-in implementer, I think that's going to become harder and harder. You're going to have to just realize the bigger picture of what's going on, and
I think
where your value is.
Sorry to interrupt. It used to be easy 10 years ago to be like a theme developer because there were so few 15 years ago. But that's probably with every big industry. You get to the point where it's no longer easy and you have to actually become the expert and pick your niche and work hard within that, because that's the problem. And I think a lot of freelancers feel a bit of a squeeze when hosting companies are becoming these huge conglomerates, becoming experts with their page builders or buying the plugins that are popular. So then it feels like, how am I going to compete with this? So you're suggesting partner with them.
Absolutely. Build those relationships. And I'm not even talking just like affiliate stuff. I'm talking about, have someone at your hosting company that you can talk to and say, I, want to focus on this kind of market space. What are you guys doing? How can I be ahead of the curve before you let everyone else know? Sneak into the expertise route because you have it. You've been doing this. And so where you excel at. So, look for the hosting companies and providers that, kind of fit that mold.
So, Robert, can I buy you a beer? This has been really, really educational. I really appreciate you taking the time to put this together and to endure Leo's harassing behind the scenes. That's been kind of funny to see you two go back and forth. So, Jenny, can we put our slides back on? I think... Or do we have... Oh, wait. I need to say thank you to our sponsors. Do you want to go ahead, Amanda, and thank our sponsors? I've done all the talking. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No worries. Thanks again, Robert. And our thanks to our global sponsors, Cloudways, Elementor, GoDaddy Pro, Green Geeks, Nexus, and Stratic, our multilingual partner WeGot, and our continental sponsors 20i and Post Status, and our live captioning sponsors GiveWP and Paid Memberships Pro. Please be sure to visit their tents and chat with them. You might even win some prizes. Don't forget to get your photo snapped in the photo booth brought to us by Content Journey and Stratic. And be sure to check out the swag bag too for details and gifts from our sponsors. And also thank you to our media partners and our micro sponsors. You all make our big orange hearts full.
Discover Weglot, the simple translation solution for your website. All you have to do is add Weglot to your website. Select the languages that you need, and that's it. Your website is now available in multiple languages.
To put it simply, plugins power WordPress. But when a plugin fails, so does your site. With fully managed WordPress hosting from Nexus, you get carefully curated plugins that will save you from having to search the plugin database to find the right tools. And you'll never have to worry about managing or updating plugins again. Start building a site that loads ultra fast with instant auto scaling, visual comparisons, plus automatic plugin updates and platform updates. With fully managed WordPress from Nexus, better is built in.
Hey, David Bissett from Post Status here. If you're having a good time today, you're going to have a greater time in the Post Status Club year-round. So go to poststatus.com/club to join hundreds of WordPress professionals and find out how we can send you the best insights in the ecosystem every week.
Here at Green Geeks, WordPress works awesome. We offer a one-click installer with automatic updates, tons of developer tools like WP Staging, WP CLI, and Git, free WordPress migration, and access to award-winning expert support 24/7, 365. Plus, WordPress sites hosted on our platform are lightning fast. Most importantly, Green Geeks is the most eco-friendly WordPress web hosting company on the planet.
Discover Weglot, the simple translation solution for your website. All you have to do is add Weglot to your website. Select the languages that you need, and that's it. Your website is now available in multiple languages.
To put it simply, plugins power WordPress. But when a plugin fails, so does your site. With fully managed WordPress hosting from Nexus, you get carefully curated plugins that will save you from having to search the plugin database to find the right tools. And you'll never have to worry about managing or updating plugins again. Start building a site that loads ultra fast with instant auto scaling, visual comparisons, plus automatic plugin updates and platform updates. With fully managed WordPress from Nexus, better is built in.
Hey, David Bissett from Post Status here. If you're having a good time today, you're going to have a greater time in the Post Status Club year-round. So go to poststatus.com/club to join hundreds of WordPress professionals and find out how we can send you the best insights in the ecosystem every week.
Here at Green Geeks, WordPress works awesome. We offer a one-click installer with automatic updates, tons of developer tools like WP Staging, WP CLI, and Git, free WordPress migration, and access to award-winning expert support 24/7, 365. Plus, WordPress sites hosted on our platform are lightning fast. Most importantly, Green Geeks is the most eco-friendly WordPress web hosting company on the planet.
Sorry about that. My mic was muted. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Next up are our three lightning talks. Welcome Craig West, Miriam Schwab, and David Lockie to the stage. First up is Craig's talk, WordPress as a microservice to any framework. Craig is a freelance trainer and architect that focuses on bringing together the WordPress and non-WordPress worlds by advocating WordPress HTML. Where there is HTML, there is WordPress. He is based in Brighton and attends the local Word Up meetings with a previous career in business and accounting, as well as having run his own non-IT business. Craig can speak both technical and business. He believes that technology serves the user, not the other way around, so the user experience is paramount. He has given talks and workshops at WordPress events and is interested in web components, progressive web apps, WordPress REST API, and has developing interest in pages that are instant and or offline capable. Welcome, Craig.
Hello WordFest, I hope you're enjoying the day. Thank you very much for letting me give you this lightning talk on WordPress as a service to any framework. There is a site here that will show more demonstrations and information if you need it. A little bit about me, based here in Brighton down at the bottom of London. My first computer back in 1980, cut and paste was cut and paste. And as a yoga teacher once said, it doesn't get any easier, just different. Still find tech hard. I do some volunteer tutoring at codeyourfuture.io. And I've been talking about web components as micro apps at conferences and meetups, both for WordCamps and also for JavaScript meetups and conferences. And basically, I'm very passionate about the idea of combining the REST API and custom web components, custom HTML, that provide a service that can be deployed anywhere on the internet in frameworks, in HTML pages, and therefore extend WordPress to 100% of the internet. I hope you enjoyed the talk. I'll be available at the end to answer any questions, and thank you very much for letting me speak. Mark Twain said, "If you want me to speak for 2 hours, I can do that straight away. If you want me to speak for 10 minutes, I will need 2 weeks to prepare." And that seems to be very true for a lightning talk of 10 minutes, so I'll proceed with pace. Some questions to ponder. What is a WordPress site? Is your site content of value to other sites? Would increased exposure of your site be a benefit to you and your clients? Would a combination of your content and interactivity with other sites be of value to you and your clients? The reason I ask the first question, what is a WordPress site, is that I want to show you a slightly different example of a WordPress site that you may not be so familiar with. Here on my desktop, I have an Ajax HTML page, which if I open up, you'll see has some buttons. And if I click, you can see it is going to a remote WordPress site displaying some posts here. We can see the URL and its response. It's using the REST API. And we can go to another on a totally different domain. Again, using different sites all along. We can see on this one page, we can create a WordPress site, because my question was, what is a WordPress website? And we can see straight away here that we can have various different examples. It doesn't need to be tightly coupled to the PHP LAMP stack. If we look at that page, Ajax HTML, we have some users HTML, and we have our own special file here, which if we click on, is loading in posts from the REST API from various different endpoints, different sites, and displaying them on the page. So this is how we could, for example, use WordPress as a service, putting in a script file that connects up with the user's HTML. It's very tightly coupled, very involved. Not the best way, but it is one way. Is there perhaps a better way that we can use our REST API so that it is more easily to be used in various frameworks and also has more client friendliness, like a YouTube embed, a simple HTML tag and a script file? And let's have a look if that is possible. As we can see on the site accompanying this talk, we have a live site here at this address. And if we open this up and go into the Dev Tools, we can see an example of a WordPress site that uses something called custom HTML tags, which I'll explain in a bit. But if we look at the main section here and open it up, we can see, for example, that we have this show post, which is this example here where we can see this post, ID 34. We can change that to 1220 and notice how it changes here. Notice these web components, that if we change the attributes, we can wire them up so that they automatically change on render. This means that, for example, the client can therefore very easily change the properties or what is displayed simply by changing an HTML attribute on this component. So when we look at this page in, for example, view page source and open it up, what we can see is all the user has to do is basically put the custom tag here, set attributes as they wish, include in a particular JavaScript file, and they can now deploy the WordPress website in any manner or form. And if we come back into this site here and just scroll down a little bit so we don't have it so large, we can see with various different types of things we can do. We can show all posts, for example, and notice again how we have basically just a different tag in here, show all posts by category 25. We could change that category quite easily by clicking on here and going to say 26 and change that. And notice straight away this only has one post in it, but if we change this to, shall we say, 24, we can see straight away we get different set of posts being displayed. So we can do things like blogs, which are double components. We can do logins. We can even do dynamic, so that, for example, when we are in the network tab, that it can load on demand the script and the dynamic tag. We can even do lazy loading, whereas if we can go into the network tab and scroll down, we see how images or posts are being loaded in dynamically. And what we also did is we were able to, with a certain type of component, build using the IndexedDB, store all data here in the IndexedDB web browser. So for example, we can click, and if we scroll down, we see we get the whole list of categories. And what's interesting about this is that if we go offline, we still have access to all that different data because it's coming from the IndexedDB within the browser. So this is an example how clients or other frameworks could use a web component that's based on WordPress in their application. So let's have a little bit of a look about what a web component is. We saw before the concept of all the JS apps working together, all the different frameworks working together. And basically what we could think of is there's like a travel website that basically allows you to book your conference, get the flights for to go to the right city, places to see there, all different apps, different databases, micro apps based on a variety of frameworks. And for example, it might look something like this, with Vue doing the events, React doing the booking, Angular doing the flights, with web components in the conference app. But what about WordPress with all its great information, shall we say, on travel guides and city? So how would we use web components in this aspect? Here is a little demo app that I've made, and basically what it's doing is kind of treating each of these are separate web components. There's one central one which we don't need to get too involved with, but if we click on conferences, for example, and click Manchester, we see we get a booking, we get different flights for that city. We can see it's getting all the details here through events. We can be logging them in the central app. But for example, if we go to Sydney, what would be quite nice is then to be able to click and actually find some useful places to stay. Where would WordPress fit into this? And if we look at the page here, we can see that each of those is like the finder, the booking, and the flights. What we can do is make a little WordPress component here that basically will provide all that data that we will need. So let's come back here, let's comment that back in. This is our special WordPress. And now when we refresh the page, for example, if we pick Paris, we get the flights, but we also places to see in Paris. And what's happening is an event's being fired. All these separate web components are listening to it and reacting to it based on the payload being sent, which is Paris is the key. So we get flights from Paris, we get places in Paris. If we go to Tokyo, we get places in Tokyo, flights to Tokyo. So this is an example how we can use WordPress as a service to any framework by either interacting in web pages, and we've not seen these examples for shortness of time, but these web components are HTML. They can also be put inside each of these apps and actually be a component within a JavaScript framework. Thank you, WordFest. I hope you enjoyed the talk and the ideas presented. Once again, there is a website here with more information that you can find out, or contact me if you need to. I hope you enjoy the rest of the day, and thank you once again.
Thank you, Craig. That was great. A little bit over my head, but it was kind of catching a few little tidbits. Next up, we have Miriam. She's talking about the future of WordPress. Is it headless? Miriam is the co-founder and CEO of Static, an end-to-end static hosting and publishing platform for WordPress websites. After years of dealing with ongoing struggle of keeping client WordPress sites secure and performant at her agency, Miriam realized that these issues could be solved in a radical way by converting the sites to a static Jamstack architecture, and she founded Static. So welcome to the stage, Miriam.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
It's nice to meet you. Take it away.
Nice to meet you too. All right, so we'll get going. Okay, so we're going to be talking about, is the future of WordPress headless? You have probably heard the term headless WordPress. It's being kind of bandied around a lot, and there's a lot of interest in it. So I'm going to talk about what that means for us and what does it mean for our future. So WordPress is growing like crazy. It's just skyrocketing, and it continues to grow. It's not like it's slowing down. WordPress grows, I think it's like every 2 months, 3% of the internet, more additional 3% becomes a part of the WordPress market or space, and that's more than the entire market share of a platform like Shopify, which is the next largest content management system. So it's growing like crazy, and it keeps growing because it's awesome. What do we love about WordPress? Why do people continue to use it? It's really easy to install it and get up and running with it. It's easy to use once it's installed. The WYSIWYG editor, now Gutenberg, helps you create pages without having to know how to code and publish them and preview them really, really easily. There's an enthusiastic community like this one of people who are interested in supporting, contributing, creating plugins, themes, and other solutions and services around WordPress. The plugin ecosystem allows anybody to just install something and get functionality out of the box without having to code it, which is amazing. But as WordPress is growing, there are issues which many people experience related to speed, security, and scalability. So if you have a WordPress site, it's very possible at some point you've experienced one of these issues. So your site might feel slow and sluggish, or more slow at particular times. You may have experienced a breach of your site due to some kind of vulnerability. Sometimes you don't even know the vulnerability is there. And then once that happens, cleaning up the site can be a big pain. Because the hackers often leave a backdoor, which is hard to clean up, and then they'll keep hacking your site until you figure that out. And scaling the site, either for an influx of traffic or low-level DDoS attacks, also can be challenging, and sites can often slow down and crash. And as time has gone on, we've seen that WordPress sites are getting slower. And every day, practically, there's a new vulnerability of something related to WordPress that is publicized. One of the reasons behind why WordPress has these issues is its architecture. The architecture is what's known as monolithic. So the admin, which is where you log in to manage the content, and the front end, which is what reflects your content updates, are smacked together. They're one and the same, part of the same installation, and everything just kind of lives together. That gives a lot of advantages. Oops. Oh, right. And because of that monolithic architecture, your whole site is also connected to many different layers of languages and databases and all this kind of stuff. And all of that impacts the functioning of your site. So you have many layers that are powering the site, but also many layers that could be potential points of failure. So you've got that going on with the monolithic architecture and all of those layers. But also, developers aren't so excited about WordPress. In 2020, there was a developer survey that was conducted, and WordPress was deemed one of the most dreaded platforms to work with by developers. So what does this all mean, and what can we do for WordPress? We've got these issues. We can't really deny them. And a lot of people experience them, and they cause headaches. And also, the developer community at large, outside of WordPress, is not necessarily excited about working with WordPress due to its stack, the LAMP stack, and also these issues that cause speed, security, and scalability issues. So headless to the rescue, maybe. Let's talk about what headless is. So headless separates the back-end content management from the front-end display. It's also known as decoupled. I'll show you what that means. You can use any technology for the front end. So if you're building a WordPress site, you use a theme, and that theme is based on PHP, the programming language. When you've decoupled the WordPress admin from the front end, that front end that is showing your changes can actually be based on any language. So React, Next.js, etc., which are more popular among developers. The content is accessible via REST or GraphQL API for display anywhere. So it kind of makes your content more portable, and you can publicize it or publish it to many different media, not just your site. It could go to an app and other places. And the front end can also be rendered through a static site generation process. So that means that you run like a build process across your site, and then it generates each page so that it's pre-rendered and ready to serve. In standard WordPress, if someone requests to view a page, that page is built for them in real time. It doesn't actually exist as a standalone file. And you doing that static site generation process has a number of benefits. So this is what the headless architecture looks like. You've got the WP admin and you've got the headless, but they're not one and the same. They're not directly connected to each other anymore. And the headless is managed separately and developed separately from the WP admin. And the headless gets its content through the REST API or the WP GraphQL endpoints, and that's how the content gets pushed into the front end. What are the benefits of headless WordPress? It's very fast. Generally, often it can have issues, but you could say in general it's fast. If you do a static site generation process, then every page is pre-rendered and it can be fully served up through a content delivery network. So it's fast everywhere in the world. Standard WordPress site, unless it's super cached, and caching can be tricky, it can't be fully served up through CDN because the content pages don't actually exist. They're not standalone pages. The attack surface is reduced by over 99%. All of those layers, the Apache, PHP, MySQL, and all the plugins in WordPress itself, they're no longer a factor. They're not connected to the front end. They're not there. And so there's very little to attack and hack. They're effortlessly scalable. Again, everything here is like with a caveat, but let's say in general, they're effortlessly scalable, particularly if they're truly pure static files. Then even if a site is hit with a crazy amount of traffic or even some kind of DDoS attack, it generally will scale effortlessly and won't go down. And sometimes you won't even know that that has happened. It's modern and shiny, which is more appealing to developers. There's less WP ops. So this is a term I saw somewhere and I can't remember where, but I like it very much. It refers to the ops, the management that goes into having a WordPress site. Is the server up and running? Are there backups? Are the updates happening? Is there, will it scale? Is there enough resources, etc.? And all of that attention that WordPress needs can be called WP ops. And with headless WordPress, in some cases, in every case, you can use the WordPress admin if you're using WordPress as the decoupled CMS, except for not in every case can use WordPress as you're used to, and I'll explain why, but in some cases you can. So what are the issues with headless WordPress? You can't use page builders anymore. And in the monolithic architecture of WordPress, changes you make are immediately reflected on the front end, so you can view them and see how your changes have impacted the way the site looks. Whereas when it's decoupled, that's not the case. And so you can't use page builders anymore like Elementor or Gutenberg is even a challenge and things like that. You end up needing to recreate common and basic WordPress functionality. So stuff that we just take for granted on WordPress, like RSS feeds and forms and redirections and all sorts of stuff like that. User management, it becomes a different ball game when you're running it on in a decoupled headless architecture. It demands much more developer resources, first to create the headless WordPress site and then also to continue managing it. Every time you want to do something, you'll need more developer resources than with standard WordPress. So in the example of even with the page builders, you want to create a new page that looks a certain way, you can't. You need to pull in developers to make sure that whatever page you're building is reflected on the front end. And it can be frustrating for non-developers because of that. And so you end up trying to simplify, but can often end up with like a tangle of stuff. Your back end, which needs its own management and server, and your front end, which needs its own management and server, and different tooling that you're using to integrate it and things like that. And it can start to feel like a bit messier than regular WordPress. So there's different ways that you can do headless WordPress. There's more products out there than there were, let's say, even 6 months ago. There's an interesting product called Frontity, where the front end can be created with React, but it's tightly integrated with WordPress, so you do get some of the benefits of regular WordPress. I'm going to talk about Static because I'm from Static. So with Static, you get to use WordPress as usual, and you get the headless output and all of its benefits. It's an end-to-end platform, so the Static takes care of hosting the WordPress site, which happens in a containerized environment, which shuts down when not in use, through to generating the static, decoupled, and headless version of the site and serving up through to CDN. Everything's configured for you. You don't have to try to patch together different tools and different parts. It just all is there. You get the ease of use of WordPress and the headless benefits of speed, security, and scalability. You can use your existing WordPress site with standard headless. You've got to throw out whatever site you have and build a new one. Here you get headless without having to throw out your site. You can have staging static sites on Static. So if you make changes, you want to make sure they look okay on Static. You don't have to deploy to production to check it. And we have native support for database-driven functionality on the Static site, which is not the case in most headless implementations, where they have to be recreated. So we support Contact Form 7 and Gravity Forms out of the box. 301 redirects are all applied to the Static site. Search, we automatically integrate a very high-quality search solution called Algolia. We support WPML and Polylang, though multi-language site management continues to be the same, RSS feeds, and user management. This is a testimonial from one of our customers, which is a very big fintech company called Payoneer. Migrating our WordPress websites from our previous hosting to Static immediately increased our site speed significantly. This contributed to lowering our bounce rate, increasing our conversion rates, and also helped improve our SEO. Their conversion rate increased by 3%, which for them is very, very significant. I think it's significant in general, but for them, it has a big impact on their bottom line. This is a free ebook, which you can download if you want to try to learn more about headless WordPress. We wrote a guide to it, and it's at this URL, bit.ly/headless-wp-ebook. It goes through what is WordPress, why do people care, how can you use it, what do you need to keep in mind. So this very fast talk is in more or less in there, but in expanded version with more detail. And that's it. So thank you. You can try out Static. We have a free trial. It's 30 days. And you could just get up and running very, very easily. And in one click, you'll also have the Static Headless WordPress website. So thank you.
Hi, welcome back. Thank you so much, Miriam. Next, we have David Lockey. He's going to be talking about 9 ways to make WordPress better with AI. That should be interesting. David Lockey's interests lie in WordPress, open source, and future technology trends, especially blockchain. He founded Pragmatic in 2012 and merged with Angry Creative in 2020, where he's now CMO. David loves working with clients to help them build success using sustainable open source web software, and in turn enjoys sharing his expertise on this topic at international conferences such as WooConf and WordCamp Europe. He advises a number of startups, including AdNode and WordProof, and is WordPress ambassador for Grant for the Web. Come on up, David. Hi, nice to meet you.
Thanks, Kathy. Nice to meet you too. How are you doing?
Thank you. Good. So you only have 10 minutes, so take it away.
10 minutes, let's go. Okay, so I did originally have a different talk, which was 9 ways to augment WordPress with AI. I didn't like it, so I decided to do a brand new talk, which is the one that you're going to see now. You're going to have to understand that I'm a lazy person, and so I didn't want to write a whole talk on my own. I'd already written one, and so I thought, well, why don't I eat my own dog food and see how far I could get to making a talk without having to do any actual real work myself. So this is a 10-minute talk. There's a lot here, but the posts will be, the presentation will be available on the Angry Creative website and SlideShare. There's a bunch of resources, so don't worry too much about taking notes. So the first challenge with a talk is like, what am I actually going to talk about? So I just Googled blog idea generator. I found one and typed in WordPress and artificial intelligence. And hey presto, it gave me a suggestion. The best WordPress plugins use artificial intelligence. Well, that seems pretty good to me. Let's crack on. So now I've got my title. What next? Well, to keep things WordPress centric here, because I do want to still focus on how to augment WordPress with AI, I'm going to work this idea up into a blog post because, you know, that's classic WordPress. As everyone knows, the writing of the article is the tough bit. So can I be lazy and cheat here as well? Let's find out. So I tried a few different services, including writer.me and contentbot.ai. But this one, ai-writer.com, seemed to be the best one. So I literally just typed in the blog title that I wanted to write about. I hit write article, waited a couple of minutes, which I won't subject you to here. And hey, presto, it generates a blog post for you. And it actually did a pretty good job. There were some of the services that I'd recognized, but there were some new ones as well. And this service, like many of the others that I am going to talk about today, use GPT-3, which is like the latest version of an AI project from OpenAI. And it's basically just very good at predicting what comes next, given an input of characters. That could be English, could be code, numbers, or music. And there are some insane examples of this. So if you take nothing else away from this talk, go and Google GPT-3 demos. It is incredible. Okay, so we got the blog post, but it wasn't exactly Hemingway. I've read worse blog posts, but I do have standards, even if I'm lazy. Hemingway. Now, why does that ring a bell? Yes, in the blog post, in some of the earlier drafts of the blog post, I'd seen a mention of Hemingway app. So into Google goes Hemingway and AI, and lo and behold, there is an AI-powered content writer that helps you write more like Hemingway. Hemingway being classic for writing simply, directly, and clearly, and obviously he's rather good at it. He was rather good at it, and he's rather famous as a result. So I basically went through the post that I had been generated by this AI, and I neatened it up. So this is the manual part of it. And I've got to say, it made me a better writer, but it also was a lot quicker to generate the post by editing what was there than starting from scratch. Like I would say, less than half the time, which is significant if you're piling through a lot of content. So we ended up with a decent draft. Is it going to come up? Now we needed to make it a little bit sexier. I don't think my slide is advancing. Would you mind doing that for me, Leo? Anyway, I will crack on. So I basically use an AI tool called Automatic Alternative Text, which is a WordPress plugin, which as you upload an image will add an alt text description for your image. It only took about 10 minutes of setup, and it will then make sure all your images, yes please Kathy, it will make sure all your images have an alt text going forwards, which is really good for SEO. It's just good practice, good searchability in the CMS, and also very good for accessibility. So there's a real good time saver there. 10 minutes in return for infinite free alt text in the future. Okay, so we're going to skip that one because the old video is playing on. Now I'm going to dwell as much as I'm going to dwell anywhere here because I find that AI around images and media really interesting and very compelling. So in the last example, we used AI to help us process the images that we had found. But AI can do so much more. And this is an example of a machine generated image. It's one of my favorite AI technologies. It is a visual generative adversarial network. And it's basically two AIs working together, one that knows what a frog looks like and judges how good a frog a picture of a frog is, and the other that doesn't know what a frog looks like, but is trying to make one. So they very quickly, at multiple iterations, will try and generate a frog and judge a frog, and eventually they end up with something that the expert AI says, yeah, that's pretty much a frog. I'm assuming this was like a 5 out of 10 on the frogometer. That was an example that appealed to me. I think it's funny, but this is a much more useful example. So this is a person, but it's not a real person. It was generated by a website called thispersondoesnotexist.com. Exactly the same technology. You can see how good it is. There are loads of possibilities for this. There are AI meme generators. You can create art from photos. It's just insane, and it's coming to videos as well. So one of the things that is important when we're working with media in WordPress is to add appropriate descriptions, captions, tags, etc., so that we can find that media again, and again we can optimize for SEO and accessibility. So here we've had AI generate a person. I've then uploaded that person's face to Microsoft Azure's computer vision service, and this is what it tells us. So it's pretty confident it's a person, and it comes up with a bunch of really useful tags that you're just not going to get in a consistent way from a human editorial team. They're never going to pick the same tags, and the better the tagging is, the more effective your content management can be. There are a couple of plugins that would do this, baking it straight into WordPress for you. Classif AI is a plugin by 10up that does it, and there's also Cloudinary, which is baked into WordPress by Human Made in their product Altis. So imagine every time you upload an image, it automatically gives you an alt text, caption, description, tags, everything like that. I just find this technology really impressive. Okay, then we're going to have a very quick look at a plugin called WordLift, which comes in handily when you want to do all the sort of annoying editorial stuff like categorization, internal linking, optimizing related content. So WordLift will analyze your content for entities, which are sort of things, and it will link them into your content. So it'll either link it externally to a website if it can find it, or it'll link it internally to like a little mini knowledge base. It'll find related posts. I actually couldn't get it to work with media, but that's probably just me being daft. So there's another real time-saving plugin there for you as well. That was WordLift. This next piece is all about sort of what happens next. So any good marketer knows that the story doesn't end when you publish a post. We have to do things like optimize conversions and drive traffic. So here is a service, again, using GPT-3 called abtesting.ai. You basically just pop in your blog post. So that was like the public URL for my blog post, and A/B testing will have a look at the elements on the page that it thinks are important to conversion. Here we've got a blog post, and so it thinks like commenting is the key conversion, because I guess it is. If it doesn't automatically find the elements we think are important, we can tell it to, and it'll then suggest alternative texts or images that we can use that might improve conversion. And then you simply add a script to your site, and it'll run live experiments trying to optimize that page for you. So it's all about making that content work as hard as possible. Next, we've got the challenge of distribution. So how do we drive traffic? Well, posting some video on the socials seems to be what all the cool kids do. But to me, it's always felt like a time-consuming, technically involved and expensive thing to do. And frankly, I just really don't do it. But then I found this, which is, sorry, I'm just trying to sync my slides. So this is a service called Viomatic. Again, I'm just putting my public blog post URL in, and it has automatically created like scenes for a video. So what I'm going to do is basically edit the text down. I'm going to swap some images around and make it into sort of like a set of scenes that I think will make a decent video. So that's me fast forwarding, and having done that, you can choose a bunch of different variables, and then ask it to create a video. And it just does it. So I will show you that full video. Now, it's not Hollywood standard, but here it is. And I can imagine scrolling down my Twitter feed and seeing, images, moving text. It's captioned it all. If you had volume on this, you'd hear like there's a voiceover for it as well. And it's basically talking you through a summary of the article, using some of the text, using some of the images that were already in that blog post. So it's building a video out of existing content using AI. And that took me about 30 minutes from first signing up to the service to getting an end result. And it costs you $30 for 10 videos. So I think that's really good value. Being able to knock out a video in 5-10 minutes, and they're $3 each in terms of cost. That's definitely a tool that we'll be using in our marketing going forward, because video is just cool and engaging. So yes, I believe WordPress is much better with AI. There are so many different opportunities and threats out there. And I've put a whole bunch of links and examples and ideas into this deck. I would love some feedback. I think it's a really important conversation for us all to have. And so I'll be on Twitter, ready to talk anytime. Oh, and here's our finished post. Pretty much done by AI with a bit of curation by me, including a video at the bottom. I think that's pretty good for a lazy presenter. Thank you so much for having me. I hope you're enjoying WordFest.
Welcome
Thank
back,
you.
everyone.
Yeah.
That was an awesome 30 minutes collectively of a lot of information. So thank you, each one of you, for sharing a little piece in your world. To be honest, it's a little over my head and what I deal with in a day-to-day. So it was really fascinating stuff that I definitely want to dive into more. Specifically, we did have a question, David, that you're going to share the links to the plugins that you were using in the resources. I just wanted to confirm that.
Yeah, it'll be on the Angry Creative website and on SlideShare, transcripts, all that kind of stuff next week. Now, it's too late on a Friday for me to do it, but it will be there.
Thank you. Awesome. And one thing that came up for me, Miriam, as you were talking about headless and WordPress, this is a new topic for me. So I did a little bit of research before your talk, and it really kind of blew my world up a little bit in the way that I understand WordPress and what it to be. So I wonder how you have conversations with folks that are new to this topic, other than kind of in a presentation format, maybe what those kind of casual conversations look like, or even in a client conversation for folks that are new to this, and how you ease them into maybe making this more comfortable. Because it's very appealing to have a faster website and higher security. But for some of those other things, that may be a concern. I wondered about that, maybe for my own personal.
Yeah, it's a really good question. The truth is that most people who find Stratic or are interested in Stratic, they are already familiar with the concept of WordPress. They tend to be developers of some kind, and often they're managing a company organization website, and it's, they're feeling the pain, and either through other work or their current work, they are familiar with this concept of headless, and so they start looking for solutions around static headless. There's another term for this kind of emerging industry that's called Jamstack, so they'll look for that also, and then they'll find us. But we're still at a stage in terms of this becoming the level of awareness within the WordPress ecosystem that it's very early stage. So, if people have questions or want to talk about it, I'm always happy to. But aside from giving talks or like the resources that we have on our site, I don't try to like explain to people who don't want to really hear about it at this point. But anyone who does want to hear about it, or even is just a little bit curious, we're always happy to answer questions. But yeah, a lot of people just it's not there yet.
So who are the kind of clients that come to you?
So far, it's a lot of types of, well, first of all, it tends to be tech companies who have like a SaaS product where they're using WordPress as their front-facing site, and that's like generating leads for them and or like for branding and all that. So they're already like, as an organization, more technically oriented, you could say. And then within the organization, it tends to be someone who's like a web lead or IT, even DevOps. Often the organization will task someone who's a type of developer and say to them, keep our WordPress site alive and well, please. Thank you very much. Good luck. And that person is not so excited about that task that they've been given because it ends up being something that keeps them awake at night. To an extent, like WordPress can be unexpected when it's running in its regular format, and they don't want to have to think about it all the time. And so once they're on Stratic, that's who comes to us. And once they're on Stratic, they report peace of mind over and over. Like they don't, if the WordPress site breaks on Stratic, it's so disconnected from the live static version that it doesn't even matter. You can fix it like in a relaxed way instead of like in hysteria about how the site is broken, that kind of stuff. So yeah, those are most of our customer base so far.
Thank you. I know you have to run. Does anyone have any other questions for Miriam? We're good. I'm overwhelmed, but I appreciate you taking the time to introduce the topic. I know with PWA, it just sort of got into it with progressive web apps. I think there was some crossover years ago when PWA first came out about headless.
Yeah. Yeah, there is crossover among these different approaches. But like you said, I do need to run. I appreciate the flexibility around that. And sorry about that. But I'm on Twitter at Miriam Schwab. I can be reached at miriam@stratic.com if anyone wants to email me with questions. You can go to our site. We have a lot of resources there. So happy to continue the conversation. But in the meantime, I must go. So
thank you.
Have a great weekend.
Bye, Miriam.
Thank you.
Miriam. Bye-bye. Craig, I don't even know what to say about your talk. Who are you speaking to? Who is your main audience?
I think it's people who have valuable content or functionality in WordPress who might want to deploy it somewhere else as a service or to increase their exposure. But the most important thing is to say that because I felt like WordPress was one section of the internet and everyone else was somewhere else, that actually WordPress does not need to be limited in that area, but can be universal. And it's just to show how possible it is. Because Robert spoke about everything being HTML. Well, web components are just custom HTML. So I just wanted people to feel that with the REST API and with web components, which is very emerging in the JS frameworks, WordPress doesn't need to be limited just to its own site and its own stack and its own section of the internet. Wherever there's HTML, WordPress can be there. So it's just to show the possibility. And it is a little bit technical. So I do understand that.
But you're saying because of the REST API, it's almost like an RSS feed or something. Like we can grab stuff from WordPress and place it almost anywhere.
Exactly, in an HTML tag. So all those tags are just custom. So you can create your own custom HTML tags. So like you have a video embed, you can just drop a video embed and it's all, you just change the kind of the attributes so you get all the right things. We can do that with WordPress. So we can slice WordPress and put it anywhere on the internet. Doesn't have to stay in the PHP
Some of us
stack.
can make our own HTML tags. Sure. Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
I did have it. You said that you got, I think this is for David, you got $30 for 10 videos. You're going to share that resource, right? Did you say you were going to put up those? And the first plugin, somebody had a question about the first.
Yeah, I'll put it all up. There should be notes, pretty extensive speaker notes, because I can't remember what to say if I don't write it down. So yeah, the video service is called Viomatic. And And
where do we find those notes? They're on the speaker's notes on the site.
As soon as I get it uploaded to SlideShare and put it on the Angry Creative blog, then you can fully access it. But yeah, I talked specifically about a plugin called Automatic Alternative Text, about WordLift, and about Viomatic there. But there are a bunch of others. So many others.
Yeah.
Have you seen the GPT-3 stuff where you describe what you want an app to do and it builds the app for you? Or like you describe a web layout that you want and it does it for you. Like, it's insane. That's your Friday night.
GPT-3 what?
Just type in GPT-3 demos and that's your Friday night internet wormhole.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I think, do we have any other questions from the audience?
See any others coming in at this point? Jonathan said that he loved Craig's talk. The perfect swan, so elegant in front end implementation, but all the gears grinding behind the WordPress API. So, a little nod to Craig.
Thank you. Thank you both for coming on and for being available for our Q&A. Looks like that's all we have right now for our questions. So I'm just going to say a quick thank you to our sponsors. We have Cloudways, our global sponsors, Cloudways, Elementor, GoDaddy Pro, Green Geeks, Nexus, and Stratic. Our multilingual partner, Weglot, Continental sponsors, 20i and PostStatus. Our live captioning sponsors, GiveWP and Paid Membership Pro. Please visit them. They also have tables set up in the tents on the first page when you first enter into our live website. You can also stop by the photo booth. There's prizes to be won, and there's swag, some downloads and freebies and coupons, so don't forget to check that out. We thank you so much to our media partners, our micro sponsors, and Big Orange Heart, of course. So don't forget to sponsor, donate to those fundraisers going on right now.
And there's a 15-minute break in the schedule now. So if you're early morning, like Kathy is especially, get another coffee and head back here on the hour for South America content to begin. It's always fun to meet other WordPressers in the community, and the community tent is open and waiting for other participants to say hi. So go on and head over there.
Thanks for joining us. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Put it simply, plugins power WordPress. But when a plugin fails, so does your site. With fully managed WordPress hosting from Nexus, you get carefully curated plugins that will save you from having to search the plugin database to find the right tools. And you'll never have to worry about managing or updating plugins again. Start building a site that loads ultra fast with instant auto scaling, visual comparisons, plus automatic plugin updates and platform updates. With fully managed WordPress from Nexus, better is built in.
Hey, David Bissett from PostStatus here. If you're having a good time today, you're going to have a greater time in the PostStatus Club year-round. So go to poststatus.com/club to join hundreds of WordPress professionals and find out how we can send you the best insights in the ecosystem every week.
Discover Weglot, the simple translation solution for your website. All you have to do is add Weglot to your website. Select the languages that you need, and that's it. Your website is now available in multiple languages.
Here at Green Geeks, WordPress works awesome. We offer a one-click installer with automatic updates, tons of developer tools like WP Staging, WP CLI, and Git, free WordPress migration, and access to award-winning expert support 24/7, 365. Plus, WordPress sites hosted on our platform are lightning fast. Most importantly, Green Geeks is the most eco-friendly WordPress web hosting company on the planet.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Nate. So excited to be here. My name is Annette Bone.
I'm Nate Finch.
And welcome to WordFest. We're kicking off the South American continent of our 24 hours of celebrating the people, the technology, and the big orange heart of WordPress. WordFest not only delivers a festival, educational content, wellness sessions, and networking opportunities, but it is also a fundraiser for Big Orange Heart. Please visit that donate link at any time to support the mission of our organization. First up on the stage is Hassan Bapi with how to provide frictionless support and keep your mental sanity. Hassan Bapi is a WordPress customer support specialist providing customer support for over 10 years, currently working for Liquid Web as a Give WP support technician.
Put it simply, plugins power WordPress. But when a plugin fails, so does your site. With fully managed WordPress hosting from Nexus, you get carefully curated plugins that will save you from having to search the plugin database to find the right tools. And you'll never have to worry about managing or updating plugins again. Start building a site that loads ultra fast with instant auto scaling, visual comparisons, plus automatic plugin updates and platform updates. With fully managed WordPress from Nexus, better is built in.
Discover Weglot, the simple translation solution for your website. All you have to do is add Weglot to your website. Select the languages that you need, and that's it. Your website is now available in multiple languages.
Do you know the Yoast SEO plugin? The red, orange, and green feedback bullets that help you optimize your posts for the web? It runs on millions of websites. We try to make SEO understandable and accessible to everyone.
Here at Green Geeks, WordPress works awesome. We offer a one-click installer with automatic updates, tons of developer tools like WP Staging, WP CLI, and Git, free WordPress migration, and access to award-winning expert support 24/7, 365. Plus, WordPress sites hosted on our platform are lightning fast. Most importantly, Green Geeks is the most eco-friendly WordPress web hosting company on the planet.
Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Hassan and I am a technical support expert at Liquid Web, where I primarily provide support for GiveWP plugin. For those who are not familiar with this plugin, this is a online donation and fundraising plugin with more than 100,000 active customers. I've been providing technical support for WordPress products for more than a decade now, so I know a few things about it and I wanted to share my knowledge with you. So today's topic is how to provide frictionless support and keep your mental sanity. Whether you are just planning to start a career as a WordPress support expert or already working for a company, I hope you will all get something new from this. So let's start. So if you are new to this industry and planning to start a career as a WordPress technical support expert, there are a few personal traits that you need to have to be successful in that role. First, let's talk about learning new things. You will always need to learn something new. If you are doing something and find yourself being bored or not just enjoying yourself or not learning something new things, chances are you are doing something wrong. Not only is there just too much to learn about WordPress themes and plugins, and every day there is something new, some new features that are being added. So you will need to keep yourself updated constantly. Second, the desire to help people. This is not really specific to WordPress or the internet, but if you find yourself being happy when you are helping others, this is a good sign. In this role, you are going to spend a lot of time helping your customers and your colleagues. So if you don't love genuinely helping people, the role is not for you. This is not something you can learn by reading a book. This is something you will need to grow in yourself. As a part of helping people, being able to have empathy for them and their situation could be the most important trait you have. If you are able to see things from their point of view and relate to how they are feeling and show them that you want to help them and find a resolution, that's a pretty positive plus point for you. Third, attention to detail. So when let me ask you these things first. When someone contacts the technical support team, when they are already frustrated, when they are already tried a few things and they need a quick resolution from you, so you will need to be able to pick out the important details in what the customers tell us, or checking all the relevant places before taking an action. This will make you much more efficient and cause a lot less headache in the end. So those are the personal traits you will need to have, and let's talk about the technical knowledge you will need to know before you can consider even consider applying as a technical support expert. So first things are HTML and CSS. This is the basic of how WordPress not just WordPress, how websites are made, like I said, including WordPress. Most of this is controlled by WordPress itself and the theme you install. So you will need to be able to understand how this works to support users. Knowing the site structure and the elements style is a must technical knowledge you will need to have. Then the general WordPress knowledge. Once you have a good feel for HTML and CSS, the next part will be learning WordPress and how it works. WordPress is a huge community project, and there are thousands of materials and opportunities to learn about it. My advice is to get good understanding the basics, and then play with WordPress every day to know every settings, every functions, and gather as much knowledge as you can. Then third point is product specific knowledge. If you are working for a specific WordPress product like a plugin or a theme shop, you will need to know the product ins and outs. So as a technical support representative, nothing can replace the deep knowledge of the product's functionality, features, and areas of known weakness. So, and it's also not realistic to know everything beforehand, but it is also expected that you will be constantly learning and honest about where you are with the product knowledge and experience. Don't be afraid of asking questions to your colleagues and superiors. Spend some time every day to explore all the features and the features of the products every day. So after that, I'm assuming that you already got the personal traits and technical knowledge to be a successful WordPress support technician, and let's move how you can provide more efficient and frictionless support. So let's talk about frictions first. What is friction? Anything and everything that is the enemy of providing excellent support is a friction. And frictionless support is the mechanics of removing those frictions and moving every customer to resolution as seamlessly as possible. How we can provide frictionless support? This begins with providing an excellent fast response. So the goal is to the fast response for you to get a resolution as quickly as possible. To facilitate that, I usually rely on the following principles for my fast replies, and I found it very, very helpful. So first one is replying in timely manner. The less time a customer waits for the fast response, the better their impression will grow for you as a support technician and your company. And then you have to be detailed. In addition, being prompt in your reply, your first reply should seek to resolve the customer's problem. That includes not only answering the concrete steps to resolve, but to anticipate all the possible outcomes and answering those outcomes. So in the first reply, what you can do is you can be friendly, and that's what I try to do. Talk to the customers as you are their voice friend. like we have got you covered, I can get you a quick resolution, and something like that. Being friendly makes the customers more confident about you and the product. And then you have to be empathic. Related to being friendly, you should strive for empathy, putting yourself into their shoes, and in order to feel what they are feeling. A frustrated customer needs a helping hand. A happy customer needs encouragement and applause, and a misinformed customer needs your kind information. So you should not waste your time defending yourself. Just focus on solving the problems. The first response should set the tone that the customer is heard, valued, and a priority for you. Now let's talk about communicating efficiently and how to deal with customers, especially angry customers. You must consider yourself as the customer's voice friend, like I have mentioned before, not just a corporate policy enforcer or just policy defender. So you should be really confident, not apologetic. You should empathize with your customers and not waste the time defending your product and yourself, but also never apologize for the things beyond the scope of the team's control. And be result oriented, not argumentative. Many of the folks who reach out the customer support is already frustrated, having attempted to solve the technical problem for potentially hours before they reached out. In their tickets or response, they can resort to attacking you, lashing out at the product or the team, or getting distracted by all the details out there, all the misinformation out there, and don't move the issue towards resolution. So you should not respond to their frustration with a defense of your actions, your team, or the current reality. Instead, you should seek to find the source of their frustration and resolve it. Then be educational, not overly technical or nerdy, I would say. Far from making the customer feel better, every technical jargon makes them feel incompetent and ignorant. It's not helpful at all. It's helpful to imagine situations where you are in a similar situations. So like I have mentioned already, be the voice friend they need, not just a nerd. And then be welcoming, not thankful. Thankfulness, especially in an opening, is technically a white noise to the customers. So if you say something that your call is so important to us, or thanks for contacting our support, they are just ignored at the best or ridiculed at the worst. Instead, you should be excited and welcoming, taking a few extra seconds to find some common grounds with them, and personalize a welcome message. That's just the way to go. Also, don't fake it. If you are not excited and not feeling for them, for their company or their cause, just skip and straight go to welcome to the right. you have come to the right place, and assure that you can get a quick resolution for them. You don't need to fake a welcome message for them. Now we have understood what is a friction and how to avoid these frictions, and now focus on the about a day in a life as a support technician. What you need to do from the beginning of your day till the end of your day to keep your mental sanity and have a healthy mental health. So the first thing, how you start your day often impacts how productive of a day you will have. As a support technician, rushing into uncertain tickets can drain you very quickly. You should kickstart your day with something that is not directly related to the support tickets, like reading product documentation or level up your WordPress knowledge, or read a blog post or watch a video tutorial. Communicate with your colleagues about what you are doing. This communication benefits everyone, just showing them what you are learning. This is something I call mental energy kickoff. So every day, first thing when you sit for work, just spend 15 to 30 minutes to kick off the day with something that is not related to the support tickets. After that, then it's time to deal with the tickets. Generally, you start from the bottom of the queue and move upwards. Make sure to close support tickets whenever the issue is resolved. You need to actively review and close pending tickets and keep the queue healthy and manageable. The more you spend time with your queue to make it manageable, make it smaller, the more time you will have to focus on the next customers and provide excellent support to them. One of the realities of ticket-based support is that ticket time will expand to fill the space given to it. What does that mean? That means the more you will work, the more support ticket you will have. So there will be always more tickets. As a support technician, we're just professional emailers who answer tickets all day. So after you have spent a considerable amount of time to the support tickets, reserve yourself 15 or 30 minutes again just to work on something that is not related to support tickets. This is something I call decompressed times. So in that time I spend doing testing, reading documentation, writing blog content, or any other work related non-ticket activity. It often works well to use the same activities, similar activities as mental energy kickoff during the decompressed time. So this is how I worked, and this has been working really well for me, and I believe that this will work well for you too. First of all, in the beginning, kick off your day by doing something else that is not related to the tickets. Spend like 30 minutes for that. After that, you do your usual works, you reply to the support tickets, and then before you sign up, reserve like 15 or 30 minutes more to decompress, so you don't have to live with all the tickets in your head. This is besides this, take time off whenever you need. Spend time with your friends and family. Keep yourself happy. I believe that you can make other people happy only when you are happy inside. So make this is a priority, that make yourself happy first, and then it comes to work. I hope that helps. So that's all for today. I'm available here for any questions if you have, and happy helping. Thanks.
Put it simply, plugins power WordPress. But when a plugin fails, so does your site. With fully managed WordPress hosting from Nexus, you get carefully curated plugins that will save you from having to search the plugin database to find the right tools. And you'll never have to worry about managing or updating plugins again. Start building a site that loads ultra fast with instant auto scaling, visual comparisons, plus automatic plugin updates and platform updates. With fully managed WordPress from Nexus, better is built in.
Discover Weglot, the simple translation solution for your website. All you have to do is add Weglot to your website. Select the languages that you need, and that's it. Your website is now available in multiple languages.
Do you know the Yoast SEO plugin? The red, orange, and green feedback bullets that help you optimize your posts for the web? It runs on millions of websites. We try to make SEO understandable and accessible to everyone.
Here at Green Geeks, WordPress works awesome. We offer a one-click installer with automatic updates, tons of developer tools like WP Staging, WP CLI, and Git, free WordPress migration, and access to award-winning expert support 24/7, 365. Plus, WordPress sites hosted on our platform are lightning fast. Most importantly, Green Geeks is the most eco-friendly WordPress web hosting company on the planet.
Okay, we are back. How did you like that session? I always learn something from every session. Like there's always something that's applicable, whether it's WordPress related or not. I think what he had talked about is so applicable to any industry. What do you think, Nate?
Yeah, absolutely. I've done support. I've been working with WordPress for almost a decade now, and I've done support for I don't know how many, thousands of people, and I was taking notes and learning new things too. I thought especially like getting the day started off with a mental exercise and just trying to get into like a positive space was something that I've actually never done before. So yeah, I was pretty enthused to see that. What are you thinking, Matt?
Well, it's funny. We were talking offline about how when we started online with WordPress in 2012, so much has changed, and a lot of this stuff that I'm so glad he brought up. I didn't talk about that. So it wasn't as important. I worked a little bit on and off in support, kind of just filling in for people, and it's not an easy thing to do, and you have to, like you said, you got to keep people happy, not be so on the offense or defense, and he brought up some really important points. But I think the mental health aspect, which I'm so glad that Big Orange is so just on the forefront of this kind of stuff. It's so important. I wish we had that back then when we started. I think at least for myself, I would have been able to navigate a lot of this stuff, because being so entrenched in the WordPress world, and especially learning it, like we had talked about, like not knowing anything and then figuring it out as we go along. There was a lot of times I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. Mentally, right. What kind of things have you learned in your WordPress career, thinking about this, what he had talked about and that kind of thing? What would you say about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a few things like come to mind are, just trying to remember that there is a real person on the other end that's having problems, right? Something is, not working like they thought it was supposed to, or that they were told it was going to, or that they were promised. So, somebody's just frustrated, right? And we've all been frustrated. And so trying to be empathetic and, kind of care for that person as best as possible. And also, I think that there is a lot of times support's happening like in an online situation. And so there is, somebody's not yelling at you to your face typically, or into your ear on a phone, right? You have this kind of interface that is like, the chat bot or the support ticket or something like that. And, if you can kind of almost not like disassociate yourself from the situation, but also just kind of recognize that there is that kind of, there is that distance there that you can that helps to kind of guard you, like personally, physically, and hopefully, as a whole person, right? That there is that space you can take if you need to step back, step away. I've definitely been on a chat where somebody's just laying into me personally, and I just, because it's a chat, you can kind of push back and stand up and get out of there for like a minute and take a breather. And if you have, friends or family that you live with, like you can go talk to somebody that loves you and, get that support network going for yourself. So, yeah, I mean, what about you? Is there a way that you've seen, that you've been able to care better for yourself mentally in those kind of situations?
Oh, it's definitely been a process, Nate. I think just, the online space, first of all, it's just amazing that we've been able to access this. And, we back in 2012, like it's definitely not like how it is now, all the tools and everything. But for me personally, for my self-care and for decompression, and what Hassana talked about is movement. So I dance and I speak and, this kind of stuff. And it's been so helpful. So yeah, movement for me, meditation, journaling, all the stuff. Like it doesn't matter if you're in like I said, if you're in WordPress or not, all these tools that we have available and all the support is just, take advantage of it because it's there, and you can find something that supports you. And like he said, you got to make yourself happy first. If you're not, you can't make other people happy if you're not happy, what he talked about in his presentation. So it's been a process. I'm really thankful that we have this is such an important part of our professional life, our personal life, that this has to be incorporated. Have you found that are you the type of person that experiments with different things, tactics, strategies to go about your day, go about, as you're working and stuff? Or are you routine and set like, this is it, this works for me, I'm not going to change it?
Yeah, I think it kind of depends on where I am in a general season, I suppose. Some days I'm pretty intentional about what I'm doing, how I'm getting started and things like that. I'll have a list that I have planned out before the end of the day or something. If I'm working on support or a new feature or something for our Stratic platform and stuff like that. So maybe I am a little bit more mentally prepared going into the day. But there's definitely some days I roll in and something's on fire. And I'm like, well, I was going to do stretches, but something like that. So, you kind of learn to roll with the punches too, as well. So, is there anything that you've kind of settled into, some kind of rhythm that you're using to start or, wrap up your day with?
I start my day a lot more scheduled than I do ending the day. I mean, I have certain things like what I've learned, Nate, is that I used to be very like by the book, but I have a structure and I have a template, a framework, and within that I can be flexible, but I have certain things that are pretty consistent and pretty regular morning and night. But I think it's more the attitude and intention that I have this framework. I don't have to adhere to it. Like if something goes, like you said, if there's a fire you need to put out, you got to put it out, right? And then, go on about incorporating those things. But I think that's what I love about the online space and about WordPress. There's so much creativity and flexibility in the personal, the way that you approach your work that way, the way you work with clients, the way you design things. I think it's just, for me, it's just all, I love that it's so all encompassing. Like there's so many aspects to it. And I know I'm kind of going off on a tangent a little bit from what he talked about, but you had brought something up that I would love to ask if you wouldn't mind talking about it, about has there been a situation where you've turned an irate customer into a raving fan? I would love to hear like what, how you handled that. And I think that would be helpful for the audience.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember specifics and, kind of what I could share about the whole thing. But there's definitely been times where then maybe they all kind of blend together into like one monster bad experience or something like that. But there's definitely been times where this is well before Stratic, where I have been working on a site, on a live site, and taken down like that customer's like whole site, right? Especially when you're first learning things that interact with like the database or whatever. And, you just kind of have a mini freak out and everything. And you get on, for me, it's, I think I've had like one or two people like chew me out in that situation. Not that it kept happening or whatever, but that there's been like that kind of thing. And it's, I think the things that have happened when it was me personally were that I, owned up to the situation, was just honest. And a lot of times I was contacting them first. And so if they see me being proactive about that kind of thing, like maybe something, broke on their website, not their whole website, but just, a new thing that I tested in a local environment and a staging environment, and then put it into live and it just broke, and just say like, hey, I just wanted you to know this is broken. I'm working on fixing it, or somebody on our team is working on fixing it. We just wanted to give you a heads up. So things like that. The other side of that is where somebody contacts you about something on your platform or that you built, and that, things aren't working the way that they understood them to be or whatever. Just try to, one, just say like, hey, I hear you. I'm really sorry that you're frustrated. This is what I hear you telling me, right? So, hey, it sounds like you're not able to, like on our platform, click publish or something like that. It seems like something's broken here. Is that correct? And then, you can try and clarify things. And the more I've found that you move through a process with people of trying to identify things, walking alongside them, the more that they are receptive to those kind of things and changing, the way they're feeling, reacting, and especially if you are able to offer a solution. There's so many times where I've seen, customers or clients just be like raving fans now, and stuff like that, because like not just me, but somebody on our team has like brought them through this process and like really cared well for them in the whole process. So it looks like Hassan is going to be joining us here as well. And Yeah, Hassan, welcome.
Welcome.
Thanks so much for your talk.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, that was great to hear, and we definitely have some questions for you here. The people want to know. They have a few questions and everything here for you. So let's see here. The first one that we have is from Kathy, and her question is, how long can you answer tickets before needing a break?
For me, I try to take a break in every 30 minutes. So maybe just a quick walk or just do some basic stretching. So for in every 30 minutes or in an hour, I try to take a break. And providing support is a very hard task for your brain. So it works fine if you just take a quick break, like 2 or 5 minutes in every hour. So don't try to just work for 4 or 5 hours straight. Take as much break as you can. That's what I would suggest. Uh, and you can also just without the support tickets, you can also spend a little bit of time in every hour. So that's what I would suggest, that go take a walk or have some time with your dog, or if you have kids, just give you some time.
Perfect.
Hassan, I have a question for you. I was wondering if there, in your experience, is there something you wish you knew looking back before you started your career? And what would that be?
Yeah, so there are a lot of things actually. So if I could just shorten it out, that before that was my thought, that the more I work, the better it's for me or for my career. I used to spend long hours in the support queue, didn't take any break. So, and what it did to me, it actually decreased my quality of my replies. So now I try to spend more time with a support ticket, and try to give myself a little bit of time in between. And what I really believe is, if I'm not up to it, if I'm not happy and not giving myself time, I cannot make the customers happy. So prioritize yourself, prioritize your health, prioritize your mental health. Then you can go help someone else. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Maybe one or two other questions. If anybody has any other questions, feel free to put them into the message chat here. So one question that came up here, can you describe a time when you had a great support experience? What was that like?
Great support experience. There are a lot. Recently, someone reached out for support, and it was Friday night, and they were trying to go live on Monday. And we usually don't work on weekends. And if we get a support ticket late on Friday, we try to respond on early Monday. But that time I took 30 minutes to solve their issues. And the reason I did that, it was after my work hours, but I did that because I saw their cause. They had a great cause. They were helping whales, and they were raising money for that cause. And the reason I helped them instantly with breaking the rule because I love their cause. And after that, they also realized that I went above and beyond, and they thanked me well, and that put a smile on my face because I could help a great cause. And most of our customers really work for great causes, and if I can make them a little bit of happy, make their journey a little bit of happy, that always put a smile on my face.
Right on. Well, we also just had a member of your team leave a note saying Hassan is a great member for Team Give. So happy to work with him. So, Hassan, you're doing something right there. Wait, awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing your experience, Hassan. If y'all have any other questions, Hassan, how can they reach out to you and ask?
Yeah, you can. They can reach out to me via Twitter. I have a Twitter handle that's @Bappi, BAPPI, and you can also reach out to me through my email. It's hassan.bappi@givewp.com.
Awesome.
This has been so great. I love learning from all aspects of the WordPress community. And obviously, Hassan, you're doing an awesome job. So we'll go ahead and close out this session. Thank you so much. And our thanks to our global sponsors, Cloudways, Elementor, GoDaddy Pro, Green Geeks, Nexus, and Stratic, our multilingual partner, Weglot, our continental sponsors, GiveWP and Yoast, and our live captioning sponsors, GiveWP and Paid Memberships Pro. Please be sure to visit their tents and chat with them. You might even win some prizes. Don't forget to get your photo snapped in the photo booth brought to us by Content Journey and Stratic. And be sure to check out the swag bag too for deals and gifts from our sponsors. Also, thank you to our media partners and our micro sponsors. You all make our big orange hearts full.